How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Big Gold Belt Media. It is I, Damian G, with another review here on the channel. And man, I have been waiting for this one for a while. It is Transformers 1. Yes, Transformers 1 finally is upon us, releasing September 20th in the US, directed by Josh Cooley, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, as well as Hamm and others. And I saw a screening of it and I was really excited. And then I said, let me take a couple of days before I do this review. Because I'm a Transformers diehard. I am a G1 Day 1 Transformers diehard. I tried to make the Bayverse acceptable to people. I cried when I first saw the first Transformers cartoon movie in the movie theaters as a child. I thoroughly enjoyed the 40th anniversary special of episodes 1 through 3 that was released in theaters earlier this year with Transformers, which you can see here on the channel here at Big Gold Belt. Just look up Transformers 40th anniversary and you can watch my review of that. But that should tell you how big of a Transformers fan I am. Optimus Prime is my role model, going back to childhood. So I'm setting a stage here. And a lot of people are going to say, well, you're just a Transformers homer. How can you look at this and be objective? Well, I'm going to come from a couple of standpoints here. We're going to be objective while still paying homage as a fan. But off the top, this is the best Transformers movie I've ever seen. Right up there with Transformers Prime as a show or entity. Right up there with G1. This is the best Transformers movie I have seen in my entire existence. This is coming from a diehard G1 fan. Let me reiterate. Best I've ever seen. And let me tell you how I came around to this, because when I first saw the trailer, you can ask the boss man Najir 2 Chainz when I said, this looks horrible. What have they done to my baby? Was kind of the thought process I had when I first saw that teaser trailer. And then when I saw that Chris Hemsworth, Thor, is voicing Orion Pax, who would later be Optimus Prime, a hero to many millennials and Gen Xers like myself, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie in the first 5 minutes. It's a great buddy cop film. It chronicles Orion Pax, it chronicles D16, it chronicles Elita 1, it chronicles Badassatron, or what will be Bumblebee inevitably. But it's parts buddy cop. It's parts fish out of water, it's parts hero's journey, and parts self-discovery. It leads to all the parts being a surprisingly emotional ride. I never thought I'd say this about a Transformers IP. An emotional ride throughout the Transformers mythos. I can't believe I'm telling you this. I really can't believe that I'm uttering the words emotional ride throughout the Transformers mythos. We take a look at the origins of who would inevitably and eventually become Optimus and Megatron. They became who they become. And I'm going to try to be as non-spoiler as possible here, because I'm really excited and I'm trying to hold back that excitement while still maintaining objectivity. In this film, they are low-level Cybertronian miners. And then to become inevitably what we know them to be, 2 sides of the same coin. As we are shown in this movie, they are 2 sides of the same coin. And the level of nostalgia that is played in this movie, probably in the first 10 minutes, is amazing. If you've seen the first animated film in the theater and you know the soundtrack and some of the lines, some of them are throwaway lines, but if you know, you know, and there's plenty of that in this film. And there's a lot of if you know, you know. But that doesn't mean that this is not going to be suitable for people who don't know the Transformers mythos or who don't understand Cybertronian lore as if it's real, right? So To me, watching this, for me, honestly, just I cared about this. I cared about the journey. And for me, this is the first time in a long time I cared about the character's journey, not the established characters, but the route they took to get where they were going in this film. And for years, these have been nothing but established characters. We got Optimus, we got Megatron. That's it. Autobot, Decepticon. But in this movie, we follow the pathway down the yellow brick road and we find out why each became who they became. We have major nuance happening in this film. A lot of idiosyncratic nuance, some minutia, character progression and development, and character formation. And that springboards into the history of Transformers in general to a modern audience. So you don't have to know them verbatim like a lot of fans do to understand this film. We got Orion, we got D16, we got some hero worship over here, we got some trying to fit in over there, we got in trying to be more than what society wants you to be. And then we also have our dreams falling right before us when something happens. And we have to recover from a traumatic event because our world's been flipped upside down and a complete 180-degree flip. And that, in this movie, that is when the pathways change. That's when Orion and D16 handle problems a little differently. And that's when I can't believe I'm saying this. I became a fan of Megatron in this film. Now, little me, 8-year-old me who would be watching this film would say, "What are you doing, man? You're cheering for the bad guy." And I know a lot of people hate the trope of sympathetic villain. Because Megatron, I'm not spoiling anything when I tell you Megatron is one of the bad guys in the mythos. But how he got there, what got him there, I understand. I actually get it. I actually understand as a fully functional, mentally somewhat stable human, and about how the character of Megatron went from D16, optimistic, liking order, to being the leader of the inevitable, what would become the Decepticons. And I can't lie. Once that truth's unlocked and both mains make their own stands for their own personal reasons for what they believe in, the movie just takes off. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a smooth transition. Honestly, I think by the time we got to the second act, it kind of stalled a little bit. But that doesn't mean it's a bad film per se. Okay? Things I loved about this movie, and I'm not trying to spoil it. I'm not trying to be too over the top. But there is a lot of nuance here and story building and world building that if you don't know the Transformers, you catch up very quickly. But things I loved that I didn't expect to love, and that was Brian Tyree Henry's performance as D16 Megatron. Didn't think I'd like it because he's not Frank Welker, right? The legendary Frank Welker, who has long voiced Megatron going all the way back to the Generation 1 iteration of the cartoon. He's the standout of this film. Brian Tyree Henry, as far as his vocal performance is concerned, is the standout of this film. I never thought in a million Transformer cycles that Megatron would be viewed as a sympathetic character, but here we are, and it couldn't have been 2024 on my bingo card if I would have predicted it. When a person has lived their life in awe and support of an ideal, and that ideal is not what you thought it would be, and the world comes crashing down, we have D16's reaction and the change. And you see the change happen in this film. It's subtle. It starts off really subtle. There's facial expressions. There's microaggressions. There's little reactions until he starts to finally become the Megatron we know as the tyrannical leader of the Decepticons. And it becomes a full-blown rage. A level of gravitas to Megatron and depth that was not expected by me. Not at all. Like I said, was not on my 2024 bingo card. But here we are with Brian Tyree Henry's performance of Megatron and D16. Dare I say, it is probably the best performance of Megatron. Please don't kill me, Frank Welker fans. But for a new age who don't know Frank's background, he blows Hugo Weaving's Megatron out the water, at least for me. At least for me. So I love the expansion of the Transformers universe overall. If you're a newbie, you'll catch on, like I said, real quickly. And if you're a vet like me, you'll enjoy the world building and the expansion of it. And it put a smile on my face to watch all these different, not even just Transformers that pop up, right? Just, oh, oh, moments throughout this film. And I had a lot. I really did have a lot of this film, and I loved it. I really did. I love the cameos that you're going to get with this film if you're a Transformers fan. There's established characters that pop up. Shockwave, Soundwave, Starscream, Ironhide, Jazz, who else? Hound, etc. It brought a smile on my face. But especially when you see Starscream, Soundwave, and Shockwave, especially Shockwave's interactions with Alita 1, that left the theater, who was pretty 50-50 when it came to adults and children when I saw the screener. We were pleased. We enjoyed it. It makes a smile come across my Transformers loving face. I enjoyed the entire voice cast. Let me say that also. I love the cast. I didn't expect to love the cast, right? Even Chris Hemsworth, who I hated the thought of him voicing Optimus Prime or Orion Pax in this situation. I expected to hate him because he's not the legendary Peter Cullen. Like I said, Frank Welker is Megatron. Peter Cullen, if you don't know, that's Optimus Prime. Go look it up. Look at their chemistry together when it comes to both characters. They are synonymous with one another. But I do love Chris's take on Orion Pax. The way he portrayed Pax as this fun-loving, risk-taking, it's almost a counter opposite to what they all became, right? You had D16 is order bound, and Orion Pax is carefree, and what do you got to lose? And to know they become these titular characters down the road of Optimus and Megatron is an interesting little flip of the character switch. And I enjoyed it, even though, again, Chris Hemsworth would not have been my first choice as an actor to voice Optimus Prime. He is a compelling Orion Pax. So I'll give him that. I'm less sold on the Prime, but since this is the Transformers origin story and I'm a Transformers fan, I'm going to let it slide. It's kind of hard to live up to Peter Cullen. And he's even said it in interviews. He was not trying to do what Peter Cullen did. He doesn't want to rain on that parade. He doesn't want to besmirch the work done by Peter Cullen. So this is his own interpretation of Optimus Prime. And then when we get to the point where he finally becomes Optimus Prime, I see it. The leadership comes out in his performance. So I'll let that one slide. John Hamm as Sentinel Prime. It was a choice. I thought he was John Cena at first when I was listening to the voice, but I see why they went with him. He served his purpose as a life-altering character for both Orion Pax as well as D16. So if you've watched Mad Men and you've really seen John Hamm play that type of smarmy character, it's like, yeah, believe me, yeah, it's all good. That's John Hamm's performance as Sentinel Prime. Almost to the point where you believe that there's something wrong with him. There's something more to his character. And oh, yes, there is when we watch this movie. This is not Leonard Nimoy's take, the late Leonard Nimoy's take on Sentinel Prime. I believe it's Leonard Nimoy played Sentinel Prime before his passing. Yes, this is the equivalent of Starscream playing Sentinel Prime. Yeah. If you watch G1, you know Starscream, you know how sniveling he can be and suck-uppy. Yeah. I see why they went with John Hamm in this situation. Scarlett Johansson as Alita 1, strong, but yet soft enough to understand Prime's leadership or Pax's leadership. They have a very antagonistic relationship in the film. And if you know the lore of Transformers, you know inevitably they become a couple. She was fine. She was passable. You know, Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee, or what would become Bumblebee, is fine. I actually liked the way he played him. I thought he was going to go a little bit more over the top because we're so used to Bumblebee being the silent assassin in the films, the strong silent type with the wacky voice box. He was portrayed fine. Better than what I anticipated. So pleasant surprise on that regard in terms of the voice cast. Again, I thought the voice cast was the best part of this. There wasn't much I didn't really like from the film as a Transformers fan, aside, like I said, from some pacing in the second act. And even if I'm complaining about that, it's more of a nitpick. So, what am I going to give this? Do I dare give this a 10? Is this a perfect film? No. Is this a perfect Transformers film? Pretty damn close. So if I have to grade this as a Transformers film, as I said, this is the best Transformers film I've ever seen, I would give this a 9.5, damn near close to a 10, if you're a Transformers fan. As an objective film reviewer, solid 8, 8.5. And that's me holding back my excitement. I'll say this is a good action movie. It's a great Transformers movie, but it's also a good coming of age. Like I said, it's a world building movie, and kids who are starting to understand Transformers will love it. There's fights, there's quips, there's jokes, there's high octane action. There's enough to keep old fans and new fans entertained for the entire runtime. I actually felt the movie got a little rushed. I feel it got a little rushed. We could have maybe tacked on an extra 10 minutes to flush out certain things. But again, I give this a 9.5. I want to say 10, but I'm going to be objective as Transformers movies go. As a film, a regular motion picture that I watched and sat there and critiqued, 8.5. So that's what I think. Let me know in the comments down below here at Big Gold Belt Media. That is my non-spoiler review of Transformers 1, scheduled to be released September 20th, starring Chris Hemsworth, who, again, I will say Chris Hemsworth pleasantly surprised me. Pleasant surprise as Orion Pax. So get off me, okay? I didn't hate his performance. Starring Chris Hemsworth, Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, John Hamm. There's a Steve Buscemi appearance in this movie that caught me off guard. And I said, is that Steve Buscemi? So thumbs up on that regard. Please go watch this. If you're a Transformers fan, you need to go watch this. If you're curious about the Transformers fans, the Transformers films, and you're worried that Michael Bay's stench is over this movie, I know he's listed in the credits, but this isn't a Michael Bay movie. Believe me, Michael Bay did not ruin this movie, like I've said for a multitude of Transformers movies, how Michael Bay almost ruined childhoods. But this is a great movie. Go watch it. Damon G, Big Gold Belt, biggoldbelt.com. Let me know down below. Did you like the movie? Do you think my review's spot on? Do you hate my review? Like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell for all things Big Gold Belt Media. Like, share, subscribe. And remember, kids, just because something is an intellectual property and it's popular doesn't mean it needs to be made into something it's not supposed to be. That's normally how I sign off on these things. But Transformers 1, pleasant surprise. You will not be disappointed. I loved it. I can't wait to see it again. And I'll catch you next time on the channel here at Big Gold Belt Media, biggoldbelt.com, your one-stop shop for all things entertainment.